Animism is one of the oldest and most profound ways of understanding the world. Present in countless indigenous and traditional cultures around the planet, animism is not a naive or superstitious belief, but a sophisticated way of relating to the environment. According to this worldview, everything that exists possesses a soul, consciousness, or spirit. Not only human beings and animals, but also plants, rivers, mountains, stones, the wind, fire, and even objects that, from a modern materialist perspective, are considered inert. From this perspective, the Earth is not a collection of natural resources at the service of human beings, but a living web of relationships among beings with interiority, agency, and dignity. Instead of viewing the world as a mechanical system governed by impersonal physical laws, animism sees it as a living community where every being has a place, a role, and its own intrinsic value. Animist cultures do not use nature, they live with it, engage in dialogue with it, and make pacts and perform rituals to maintain balance. This way of being in the world implies an ethic of reciprocity. Everything that is taken must be given back. Everything that is done must consider its consequences within the greater web of life. Through this lens, all of creation is sacred. There are no hierarchies between superior and inferior beings, nor is there an ontological separation between humans and non-humans. All beings have the right to exist, and the life of one depends on respect for the life of the other. In this context, reducing respect for life solely to animal welfare, as the most common vegan discourse tends to do, is insufficient. Modern veganism, although often rooted in valid ethical motivations, especially the rejection of animal suffering and concern for the environment, tends to be structured around a dualistic and simplified logic. Killing animals is wrong. Avoiding animal products is right. However, this binary morality does not hold up when examined from a broader perspective, such as the one proposed by animism. A truly relational ethic cannot be limited to avoiding visible harm to animals. It must also include soils, waters, seeds, stones, and entire ecosystems, which are often devastated to cultivate products labeled as ethical in order to sustain a vegan diet year-round. What sense does it make to save the life of a cow if, in doing so, a forest is cut down, an aquifer is depleted, an ancient soil is degraded, or a mine is exploited that destroys both human and non-human communities? Veganism, understood as an industrial food system without animal products, does not eliminate environmental impact. It merely reconfigures and shifts it. Maintaining a fully plant-based and nutritionally balanced diet year-round, especially in countries with marked seasons, temperate latitudes, or limited fertile land, requires massive importation of out-of-season foods, intensive use of monocultures such as soy, quinoa, nuts, or avocados. Industrial supplementation with vitamins, B12D, minerals, iron, zinc, and fatty acids, omega-3. Transcontinental storage, refrigeration, and transportation. All of this is embedded in a global system of production and distribution that depends on the consumption of fossil fuels, mining, petrochemicals, and the exploitation of labor and land, primarily in the global south. Paradoxically, this model seeks to avoid animal suffering, but often renders invisible human suffering and broader environmental degradation. From the animist perspective, this way of eating is not more ethical, just more disconnected from context, from the land, and from local reality. It is impossible to consume without causing harm, but it is possible to live with awareness of the harm we cause, striving to minimize it and to compensate for it in ritual, ecological, and relational ways. Another central problem of globalized veganism is that it tends to present itself as a universal solution applicable to all people in all contexts. This view ignores the planet's cultural, ecological, and climatic diversity. Demanding that an Inuit community, an Andean village, a Saharan nomad, or a Patagonian farmer adopt a diet based exclusively on cultivated plant products is not only unrealistic, it is also profoundly unjust. For millennia, traditional cultures have developed food systems adapted to their environments, in which the consumption of animal products is not a luxury or indulgence, but an ecologically and culturally integrated survival strategy. These systems are often sustainable because they are based on balance, moderation, and ritual respect for the beings that are sacrificed. In many of these cultures, killing an animal is a sacred act, full of meaning, not an unconscious act of consumption. Imposing modern veganism as an absolute moral ideal is a form of food colonialism, an ethical imposition that arises from certain urban sectors of the global north, often disconnected from direct agricultural labor and dependent on industrial supply chains that, paradoxically, worsen the very crisis they aim to solve. The deeper root of the current ecological crisis does not lie in the fact that we eat animals, but in how we eat them, how much we consume, and under what economic system that food is produced. Both industrial livestock farming and large-scale agriculture reliant on agrochemicals are products of the neoliberal capitalist model, which promotes mass production, mechanical efficiency, and the maximization of economic profit without regard for ecological or social impacts. The solution does not lie in eliminating all animal products, but in a radical transformation of the food system, a return to local, diversified, agroecological, sustainable and culturally rooted models. Models in which people grow part of their own food, know where the products they consume come from, respect natural cycles, and establish both symbolic and material relationships with the earth. Traditional livestock farming, when practiced responsibly and on a small scale, can even be an ally in ecological regeneration. It helps maintain ecosystem balance, fertilizes the soil, supports crop rotation, and sustains rural life. Animism invites us to an ethic of interdependence and care, an ethic where the goal is not to avoid all death, which is impossible in a world where everything lives off everything else, but to face it with awareness, gratitude, and respect. To live is to affect. The key lies in how we affect. Do we do it through systematic violence or through loving responsibility? Through blind consumption or through reciprocity? Veganism as a universal moral dogma tends to forget that there is no single path to ecological justice. True sustainability is not built on rigidity, but on the ability to adapt to place, culture, and historical moment. From the perspective of animism, respect for life is expressed not only in what is avoided, but in how what is taken is honored, how what the earth gives us is given back, and how an active awareness is cultivated in every daily act. Absolute veganism, though well-intentioned, is neither a global nor a sustainable solution. It may be a valid choice in certain contexts, but it cannot be upheld as a universal model. What we truly need is an expanded ethic, a spirituality embodied in daily actions, that leads us to relate consciously with all beings. Animals, plants, minerals, waters, soils, winds, and with the human communities that sustain life. It's not just about what we eat, but about how we eat, where it comes from, with what energy it was produced, and what relationships it creates or destroys. Only by cultivating a loving, just, and contextual relationship with the earth can we move toward a way of life that does not deny death, but integrates it into a cycle of respect, gratitude, and regeneration. True ethics are not based on purity or exclusion, but on the humble recognition of our interdependence with all that lives. And that ultimately is what animism reminds us, that we live within a sacred web, and that every daily choice is an offering to the world we share.